Salutations, everybody. It is Matty here today with episode 220 of the H.A.M Radio Podcast.
And it's me, Karak with ACG.
Karak, are you doing well, my friend?
Indeed, busy.
Good.
Busy.
Good type of busy. Yeah, I have definitely, I definitely overworked myself last week. It got to the point where I definitely, had to take a day or two away from the screen. Had to shut down the streaming operation a little bit as well. It's just that time of year where it's so fun that you get lost in your work.
Yep.
And then you're like, oh shit, I have to be a human. So it's been a lot of fun, but just a lot of work.
I think it's pretty easy to not really realize how many hours you've worked in a row. And then a couple days ago, I looked and I was like, I should probably take a day off.
Yeah, that's what. I haven't streamed since last Thursday because, like I said, that's kind of that extra thing I do that sometimes pushes it over the top. And I think I streamed, it was last Thursday, I want to say. And you could tell it was low energy. And I was like, look, guys, I gotta go just chill.
And you know what? I mean, I don't know if I'm sure nobody leaves you because of low energy, but I think it's actually better when a Twitch streamer just says it.
Yeah.
It's like,
that's the thing.
Hey, you know what?
It's
not working for me.
Yeah, and that's why I tell people that. I'm like, hey, if I don't even say it to bitch, I'm just like, yeah, not feeling hot, and it's okay. I'm not burning out. I overworked myself. We got a boss who taps you on the shoulder.
People would think somebody like you or me are just always up. Admittedly, we are high energy, but there's days where you're high energy, but you're not really high social energy. You know what I mean? Where you could work on your own, but you don't really want to talk to anybody. But you could do your own stuff. And that's Twitch. You have to be, at least somewhat engaged all the time, and it can be uncomfortable for a while.
Yeah. Yeah, man. It's funny you mentioned that because sometimes, I'll be talking to the mic all day that I won't want to talk afterwards.
Yeah, right.
Because it's
it's almost like resting your voice, right, Maddie? Yeah, you're just I'm not going to talk to anybody. Sign language to get, burgers from your mom at night and shit.
No, it's actually funny you mentioned that, the resting your voice, because I'm not a voice actor where I'm straining it, but sometimes I'll hit words a little bit harder. When I do a salutations, it's a sell, and I'll and I'll scrape my voice every time, and 20 takes later, you're like, oh fuck, it's killing me now. Just a little insight, ladies and gentlemen, on what we go through. Anyway, Karak, any plans for the future?
Just Surge 2, and then I'm doing a new series called Walk My Walk, which is basically like the Walking the Walks, but it's all about YouTube, and it starts the day I started YouTube, the day I got laid off, and it's just podcast. It's just on Anchor.
Nice.
And it's just going to be in multiple parts and stupid stories.
I like that.
About the time where it looked like I was jacking off during the Jurassic Park Lego premiere at GDC. Just stupid stories of stuff that Cadiz and I and everybody went through. And I'm just going through my list. I'm looking at the videos that correspond to moving forward through the time frame, and I'm like, I remember a funny story, and just explaining to people all the difficulties or fun stuff and stuff like that. So it's been a blast to do.
That's awesome. Yeah, for me, I'm also playing the Surge 2, or I'm going to be playing the Surge 2. I'm not going to have a full review like you. You got your code a little early. I got mine 5 days early. But I've been still bouncing between Greedfall and Borderlands 3. Borderlands 3 we'll get into in our first topic, but let me just tell you, that game has not treated me well. So I've been getting through both those for reviews.
Bugs, right? I think I saw your tweets, Bugs.
Yeah, like I said, we'll get into it. But a lot of bugs. So I've been trying to get those done before I commit to another game, but I'll have impressions for the Surge 2 out. Other than that, no substantial plans, just cruising on along here. Looking forward to the Outer Worlds mostly. That's kind of the next game I have my sights on. And we'll talk later in the show as well about what other games we're most anticipating this fall. But with that out of the way, do keep in mind, if you want to support the show, get early access, and have your Patron questions tie into the show, you can go ahead and sign up for just $1, and you get access to everything you need for this show. Like I said, early access. You can ping me a message, and I can give you a Discord invite. Sometimes it automatically integrates. Sometimes it does not. You just got to let me know, and I'm very easy to get into contact with. So with that all out of the way now, let's get into it, Karak. Starting off with Borderlands 3, it is getting its first limited event details. This is Bloody Harvest. So, The following information comes from GamesRadar.com. Gearbox has announced today fresh details for Borderlands 3's Bloody Harvest Halloween event, which will take place in the recently released looter shooter for a limited time next month from a yet-to-be-announced date. It will be available for anyone who's completed the first act of Borderlands 3, as haunted enemies will begin to appear across the galaxy, able to inflict players with a new terror debuff, restricting their vision and gun handling. Kill enough of these haunted enemies, however, and your Vault Hunter will eventually unlock access to a new event-specific map, which promises spooky rewards to add to the list of the best Borderlands legendaries already in the game so far. Another NPC, Maurice, will also be showing up on Sanctuary 3 for the event as your go-to vendor, the Bloody Harvest new Hectoplasm currency dropped by haunted enemies and used to purchase limited time loot. The Bloody Harvest map features Racco lanterns, I like that name, Maliwan lackeys, and more, culminating with a boss fight against Captain Haunt. So for those who don't know, there's a boss fight, Captain Tron, so I'm guessing this will take us to Athenas.
Yeah.
A Halloween-themed remix of Borderlands 3's Captain Tron. I'm sorry, I should have just read a little bit further. On top of all this, the limited time event will provide players the opportunity to acquire a new Echo Device skin, weapon trinket skin, and outfit for each of the 4 Vault Hunters. And that's pretty much it for that. They also mentioned that they included a brand new golden key that's actually available till Sunday. So if you're listening now, you missed out on the new shift codes, you can go ahead and pound one in and get some golden keys to get more loot in Borderlands 3. We'll start off with the news and get into Borderlands 3 in general, and that we've, I think, both had time to play it a little bit more. Karak, what do you think of the idea of a Halloween event? It's free, by the way. I don't know if that was mentioned at all, but a Halloween event that gives new skins, trinkets, a new boss, new enemy names, I guess. Just a nice Halloween-themed thing. What are your thoughts?
I'm a sucker for it.
Yeah.
I'm a complete sucker. I'm a sucker for it in MMOs, and I did Sega Saturn. There was a game called Nights, and if you changed your date on your Saturn to Christmas or Halloween, it would change the entire world to Christmas graphics or to Halloween graphics. Any of that kind of stuff, I actually really dig. I think the big thing is when the time frame passes, you'll keep the stuff, but does that just mean you won't be able to like fight that guy anymore?
Trant will be there, but he won't be Haunt, I guess.
So it really is like that date or whatever, and then it's like going back to normal.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
Which, I mean, I don't know. I've always liked that. I know some people have gripes with it. I even said it with Fallout 76 because that's the only game that comes to mind that I've played recently with limited time events. And I've always said that, you know, this type of stuff is almost like a badge of honor that you put on your character to show, like, how long you've been playing, what events you've been through. It's something that you can show off. I've always liked that, personally. I like the idea as well. I am a sucker for the holiday stuff. Much like you, I have the memory of a game when I was younger that did, if you changed the time to Christmas as well, it was the original Ninja Turtles game by Konami on, like, the PS2 and Xbox. If you changed it to Christmas, your character would have a Santa hat on. It was just a little thing, but I remember getting the game on Christmas, and when I put it in, they had the Christmas hat, and then the next day I played, they did not, and I just thought that was the coolest thing. So I like that games are in the holiday spirit. I think it's fun. It reminds me of Overwatch as well. Overwatch was one of those games that was very on top of its holidays, the coming and going of seasons, and so I personally appreciated that. I like that, so I'm happy to see Borderlands 3 is getting free content already. We did know this already. They announced it, I think, just before the game was released.
They did, just before the game was released, yeah.
Yeah. There's still going to be another free update, which they have not talked about, for November, which I believe will be Thanksgiving-themed. And then there will be the first piece of actual paid content at the end of the year, presumably in December. So for the next total of 4 months, when you count September, October, November, and December, you'll have something new in Borderlands. So you're definitely going to get your money's worth. The base game is pretty meaty. Have you had a chance to play any more of it since we last talked?
Yeah, I would say I think I'm on the last planet, and then gone back, did some more co-op. I don't remember how many hours, because that would have been Friday we talked. I did play a lot of Saturday and Sunday. So yeah, probably put another 8 to 15 hours in it.
Okay.
I think.
Yeah, and are you liking it anymore? You care for it?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those games. I actually saw another reviewer say it's hard to, it's a little bit hard to recommend it because there are issues, and I can definitely see some people having that. Luckily, I've had weird bugs for sure, but overall, when it comes to like the combat and stuff and some of the guns, I really dig them. I do wish the game was harder because you said when prior to the podcast last Friday, you said something like it's pretty easy. And it had dawned on me when you said that. I was like, whoa, weird. It is pretty easy. And then I played all day Saturday and Sunday, and I died a total of 4 times. Yeah. And I was like, I'm not 100% sure this is balanced right, because it was ridiculous. And so there's some issues with balance for sure. But overall, it's more Borderlands.
Yeah, it's fun.
I mean, what can you say? Yeah.
Yeah, for me, I probably would be a little further. My friends and I played, out of the last 3 nights in total from as we record this, we played 2 of them. One of them was extensive. The other was about 2 hours. And we took a break the 3rd night just because, like I had kind of alluded to in the intro here, my Borderlands 3 playthrough has been really buggy. Really, really buggy. I'm talking I've fallen through the map. Quest markers don't work, and I'm talking like you'll set a marker and it'll take you to the wrong one. Bosses glitching, pathfinding AI glitching, just lots of stuff not working, and having to reset lobbies, having to leave the game, having to reset the entire application. And it's a real shame because it's really converting into one of the most disappointing games I've played this year because of that. And everyone knows who's listening to this. I mean, let's start off with the fact that I built my channel on BGS games. I have a very high tolerance for bugs, a very high tolerance. And I'll be the first to tell people, you know, I never had a super buggy experience outside of 76 with the BGS game, but their games are still buggy, still have some jank, and I'm just a little more forgiving of jank. That's one of my things. You guys know that, for example, with Greedfall. But holy smokes, man, like this game needed a little extra time for sure. It does not run well for me, frame dropping sometimes. And it just makes, because it doesn't run that well, it makes me hone in. We talked about this a couple weeks ago. You hone in on those other problems with the game a little harder now. Like the story, if it sucked but the gameplay was fine, the game ran well, I wouldn't care. But now I can't stand that the story sucks because the gameplay has become insufferable for me because of how poorly the game runs. I'm playing on a base PS4, by the way, which I don't think that should be an issue because it's struggling even worse on PS4 Pros from what I've read, depending on which mode you play. Some people are saying performance mode actually runs worse, which is really weird. But yeah, man, I've just struggled to have fun with this game because, like I said, the gameplay is constantly dragging itself, and then the story beats have been just not good, which, you know, whatever. I don't play Borderlands for the story, but like I said, you hone in on that a little bit more. And so I had to take a break from it also because in the last 15 minutes of that final session, it was just like frame dropping, chaotic explosions, numbers everywhere. And have you ever had a game that had so much happen on screen at once? You actually got a headache and you had to step away.
Absolutely.
First time it's ever happened to me, Borderlands 3, and I was like, that was a lot. Like, I actually feel really weird after that. And I was like, I gotta put the controller down. I have to step away. I had to I had to literally rest my head. And that won't factor into my review, but I'll say that's the first time a game has given me like a physical fucking ailment because of all the shit happening. And that was weird. And I don't want to act like this is an awful game because underneath it all, Borderlands 3 is a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. There's a reason I'm still playing it, right? Obviously, I want to finish my review, but when you're cycling those guns and questing, it's fun. I'll say it's considerably less funny. The writing is garbage, and it just shows that with Borderlands 2, even more so, things were just like working perfectly with that game. You know, it had the great loop, it had a really good story, it was hilarious. But then again, my sense of humor is more sarcasm based. I do have an immature sense of humor at times, so you'd think Borderlands 3's like constant fart and poop jokes would synchronize with my ass pretty well. Pardon the pun, but Yeah, it has not hit with me. I have not really laughed at this game outside of once or twice. I thought Captain Trot was funny enough. We just mentioned him for the Halloween Easter egg free update thing, and he was pretty funny just because of his tone. But yeah, man, that game has just not been landing for me, which really sucks to say. Everyone knows based off how much I covered it, when it was just unannounced, mere rumor. It is really disappointing me.
Yeah, I don't think people get it that like a bug, or especially performance issues. First of all, yes, I'm susceptible a little bit more than you, far more probably, for like motion sickness. So when shit's exploding on screen and stuff, depending on what I'm doing, it can definitely make me ill. This game, because I am alone a lot of the time, there's a little less exploding because it's just like me killing one guy and then, but you still get it. But people don't realize that like performance impacts gameplay. I've had people get all over me for saying a game's got really bad performance. They're like, well, it's still fun. Yeah, it can be, but if your timing's off, if a headshot's hard to make because it drops from 25 to 30 frames per second and bounces back and forth, that'll make the shooting feel less satisfying. And this game definitely has an issue. If you use performance mode on the PS4 and the Xbox, it vacillates a lot. But if you go to the resolution mode, it then is almost always like sub 30. So you really can't get it perfect. Luckily, I'm on the PC. Even then, it doesn't run as well as it should. Yeah, it doesn't run as well as it should. It runs well because I can brute force it. But it doesn't run as well as it should. You can see it.
Like just through the sheer power of your rig, you mean, right? Like
yeah. So you'll see like 60 frames per second. You'll see that you hover around 80. Like let's say if you're hitting 90, most games they go and optimize every location so that you pretty much stay at 90. You don't want to see drops to 70 because that means if you also kill people and it's dropping to 70, it could drop to 50. So what you're hoping for is like a floor, and there's not a lot of floors in that game. It reminded me of Remnant that way, where I was like, it was just, it was up and down and up and down. And yeah, I mean, it is what it is. I had some bugs, luckily, and from what I understand, co-op and multiplayer is distinctly more buggy than single player.
That's what I've sort of narrowed down.
Yeah, and I had some big bugs single player. So to me, all I can say is if I had those bugs single player, my assumption is the experiences you had and other people I've talked to are pretty much right in line if you just double, triple, and quadruple the amount of things going on screen.
Yeah, and it makes sense, right? There's a lot more going on underneath the hood. I'm playing with a 4-player squad. You put that many people in there doing their own thing, managing their own inventory. That's a lot of data that has to be streamed, a lot of effects on screen. I mean, there's a lot happening in this game. It's just that I guess it sort of ties into like what I said where I was like, wow, I felt physically ill after that, where it's like, if that's a side effect, maybe tone that down because it's not helping anything, at least in my case. I don't know if anyone shares that. I won't speak for everybody, but from my perspective, that helped nothing with the experience. And if you tone that down and the game also runs better, then it's a win-win. And, I know a lot of people, the issue with complaining about performance and bugs a lot of the time is, I'll just get this game when it's patched and on sale. And it's like, yes, that can invalidate a lot of the criticism of the game, but at the same point, I guess, for me, it will never change that first playthrough, right? That first playthrough that's been just really trashy for me.
Well, and I think whatever date you say your impression, it's only going to be invalidated later, not from the day you say it. So if you're having those performance issues right now, that's completely 100% valid. Nobody can argue that. Yeah. It's like scientifically proven. However, later on, if they patch it, that's great and everything. But it, like you said, the fact of so many games coming out, are you going to have the time to return to it? Are you going to want to? If it was a rough experience, are you like, was there enough stuff? If the story wasn't hitting you, then maybe you'll be like, maybe I don't want to return. I will say I haven't even noticed a joke in the game. I'm not lying. I guess so, because everybody's talked about like the humor didn't hit, and I've been playing the game and paying attention to the story, and I haven't even seen what would the term, like something funny, but probably because my sarcasm is way above board. But like stuff happens, somebody does something stupid, and I shoot them, and then I move on. So I guess I'm just not bought in. enough to care, I guess. I don't know.
I wouldn't say that, because I feel like with Borderlands 2, the reason that a lot of people thought that game was funny, and I attest to that because I replayed it this year. I replayed the entire Borderlands series in anticipation for this game. Like, that's the thing, man. I don't remember. I did that for Fallout 4. Not saying my hype level was that, but like I have not done that specifically for a game. I played Game of the Year edition for Borderlands 1. I replayed pre-sequel, did a review for that, and then in my own personal time, I replayed 2. And 2 still stands up as funny, and I think it's because they just were a little more all over the place with it. With 3, there's a consistency of like making a shit joke or like a fart joke, and it's like, okay, like if you pace that out, that's funny because it's like, oh, it's just childish, and that's fine. Like, I don't mind that humor. I think it's hilarious sometimes. Not in this game, but I'm saying in general. I'm a very easy target for that level of humor, and sometimes just game humor in general is hard to do. But with Borderlands 2, there was just that level of sarcasm, that sort of whatever personality, like Handsome Jack just paying you to go kill yourself. And it's like fucked up, but that's kind of why it's funny. Like, there was a level of dark humor in Borderlands 2 that's completely missing in 3. And all the dark parts are saved for more serious storytelling delivery moments. And I just feel like it took itself serious in the wrong areas, and where it tried to deliver a joke, it was trying too hard almost. It's really weird. I never expected to be saying that.
Yeah, it must be bad, because I legit don't even I can't even remember a fart joke. Like, I don't know if I don't pay attention to it and that's the issue or what, but
it's like, for example, you're walking through, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, but you're walking through, I think it's like a prison area, and you can hear Tyrene and Troy like on the intercom messing around, yelling stuff, and they're talking about like pooping and whatnot, and I'm just like, really? Like, why?
Oh, I guess they are.
Yeah, and there's multiple instances of stuff along those lines throughout the whole game, and I don't think PC Gamer's review thus far in the terms of its writing was that far off, which I'm a little shocked to say.
Yeah, I guess I guess I do remember some of that stuff. It just, it hasn't really hit me. Overall, it's been, but admittedly, I was not a fan of 1 or 2's story. I wasn't a fan of 1 or 2 overall as games. I just haven't really loved Borderlands. I didn't hate them.
That's fine, though.
I just, so with this one, I probably haven't really been putting too much of a focus on it. It's, the open world thing I really like. I do solidly believe that the desert absolutely needed to have been removed from the game.
Pandora in the beginning.
Pandora is horrendous, and it's so horrendous as a starting area that I remember getting done and almost couldn't force myself to get to the ship because I was so bored with desert and Borderlands. And then once I got onto the first planet, I was like, okay, now I'm actually interested, because it was so redundant feeling compared to like everything felt like it was just Borderlands. It didn't even feel like Borderlands 3 at that point. It was just, to me, it felt like you could have said, what Borderlands are you playing? I wouldn't have known.
Oh, dude,
and then you get on the ship
on Pandora,
then it was better.
And people on stream were like, are you playing 2 right now? And I know they were kind of being jackasses, but
yeah,
I think there was a little bit of validity to like because cell shaded can look similar. There is a lot. It's significantly better looking, but it's like they're
significantly better looking.
Yeah. But it's like their joke could have some validity to it, because it's like you're on.
They should have just made
they
should have just made the first planet be somewhere. I would have had no problem with Pandora being one of the locations. I just feel that as a starting location, it's not at all a good look for your game.
I said that in my preview, and I was curious how it would weigh out when I had the full game, and I feel I was on the money with it, because I completely agree that Pandora would have been cool if you returned to it.
Yeah.
For a significant moment in the story. And on paper, I can understand why they said start off on Pandora and then expand, right? Like, start with what's familiar, get their feet wet, I guess, and then expand. But what happens is, during this whole promotional cycle, you're talking about going to different planets and whatnot, and I think that's what people were excited for. And when you have to wait for that thing you're excited for, that hurts the game's reception a little bit. People are still having a blast, which is good. I think a lot of people don't care, because it's just like, what's the next shooting gallery? Is it pretty? Which pretty much every location, I'd say, outside of Pandora, because Pandora doesn't have that wow effect. It's just desert. Whereas Promethea, you have this bustling city with like flying cars, and Athena's is very like Asian inspired, which is excellent. They all feel very distinct and different, and in turn interesting. I love the locales in this game. They're so fun to explore. But outside of that, yeah, the gameplay's good. It's just, man, I wish this game ran better. I don't want to even think of being extra. It takes a lot for me to to say to my friends and I during a co-op game, which, you know, we rarely have a chance to play together, to go, let's take a break and play something else tonight. Like, very rarely does that type of grind stop.
I also had a weird issue.
Really weird.
I don't know if it's a bug, but I ended up. I'm level 20, and I'm still carrying a level 4 legendary. That
really, you must have gotten one of the best legendaries in the game.
I guess because I have all
possible.
legendaries in my weapons, and I have something, the Butcher. It's got the Butcher in the name, and it's a shotgun.
Doesn't sound familiar.
Very powerful shotgun, but every time I've switched out from that gun to any other gun, I've died pretty. Like, those were the 4 times I died. Like, I switched out, and I'm like, any shotgun I chose, any other gun, it just didn't work in the cycle of weapons I chose. And I'm killing. So, like, I killed the boss that everybody said was a good boss. The first boss fight, I believe. The electrical guy, the dubstep boss.
Oh, mouthpiece. I think
I killed that guy in probably 9 seconds. It couldn't have been more than 9 seconds. It was ridiculous. It was like boom, 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 boom. He went invulnerable. Boom, 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 dead. It was redonk. So then I went to the other.
Crazy.
Yeah, and that was one of the things that I've noticed with these particular weapons is I have stopped now grabbing weapons completely, and I don't think that's the way Borderlands should work. But unless it's legendary, I now completely never look at it.
I will say this much. If you have very good legendaries, at least from my experience with 1 and 2, more specifically 1 Game of the Year edition, there was this revolver I had. I think it was called like Violence or something. Someone will correct me. But it was a revolver that I had from level 9, and at the end game I was still using it because it was that good. And I think that's what makes the legendary special. I will say this much, though. In Borderlands 3, apparently they're knocking down the legendary drop rate, which I found a little disappointing because I've been very fortunate to have gotten a lot of legendary guns, and I found that very satisfying. And I don't think it hurts the game because what happens is I may have a level 20 legendary that's great, but come the end game, I want a level 50 version of that gun. So I'm going to go back, grind it, and I want the drop rate to be high so I can get it and then use it for the rest of my experience. That type of stuff is awesome. So yeah, I was a little disappointed to read that, but I will say that what I was getting at is I would have a legendary like the Expert Storm, which is this sniper rifle that you shoot and it does a big electrical explosion. If you have the electric variant, there's also a fire variant which like rains fireballs, which is cool. But once the electric shield thing explodes, a bunch of electric balls will surround that shield and just hone in on the target that's in the middle. And initially it did a lot of damage, but now it doesn't do any damage really. It's just good for taking out shields. So there are some legendaries that age well. Like I have I think it was from the same boss who dropped it. I have an SMG, I forgot what it's called, but it shoots 4 bullets at once that are cryo, and it shoots them in bursts, and it's got a very fast rate of fire and a quick reload speed. So I'm just flying through clips, doing tons of damage, especially as Flak. I'm doing a crit build for him. So when I land a crit with 4 different bullets at someone's head, I'm doing like insane damage. And that's a weapon I've had since like level 18 or something, and I'm level 29 now, so that one stuck with me. So legendaries do tend to stick with you longer, but in the terms of not cycling out weapons as much, that's pretty ridiculous.
Yeah, I just stopped. I legit the last like 6 hours I played, I don't think I grabbed a single weapon.
You definitely stick with
unless
guns
it was
longer.
legendary. I just if it was purple or whatever, I'd just be like, it's probably not as good as this, and I just moved on. Now there might have been one that was better, and I just missed it. But for the hours prior to that, I was looking, and I was doing that thing where you're collecting all the guns. The inventory sucks in that game.
Well,
you can't compare.
It takes a while to load.
Yep, you can't compare with one button. It feels like it's from 1980. And I'm sitting there in that inventory, clicking on this button, then this one, and then comparing them, then hitting escape so that I can compare a different gun. And finally, I just gave up. I was like, fuck it, this gun's good.
It's really weird how the HUD got worse.
Yeah, I don't really know what's going on there. I just know that a month. It would have been, I just feel like a month would have.
That's what I'm saying.
Well, I don't know if they would have added a compare button, which is my biggest actual gripe of the game, but or one of my biggest, but they probably would have adjusted some of the drops, and hopefully this legendary I got, a bunch of people didn't, because I do find I'm enjoying it a little less because the loot is a main part of the game. And I got an acid gun that doesn't run out of bullets, a fire gun that doesn't run out of bullets, and this shotgun. All of them legendary. The shotgun's the only one that requires bullets. You know how the ones heat up
Yeah.
and then cool down? But what's funny is, by the time I get to the second clip of the ones that heat up, the first one's already cooled down. So I just continually use my scroll button and just go from weapon to weapon. In fact, I would say I haven't looked at what type of damage I've been doing to enemies for the last 2 times I played. I just literally just go ga 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 ga, and then switch ga 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 ga, and then switch, and one of them's bound to hurt them. And that's it. My acid gun, you throw, it blows up or turns into like a turret. But I don't even, other than a little bit of acid damage, I don't even really know like what that's doing. The fire one's good. The fire one's awesome just because it's got such a high percentage of fire chance that if you fire just a couple shots, your chance is almost 100% of lighting somebody on fire. And you know, there are some enemies, of course, that ignore that. And then with I'm the guy, the fucking robot dude.
Oh, you're Flak as well.
The pet wrangler. Well, the pet Flak. So Flak can switch to turn his animals into different elements. So I've got the firebirds, but you can also as a special, but you can also change it to cryo. So now if I do face somebody who is weak to ice, I just hit the button and those guys just ruin him. So it's just, I don't know, the challenge.
If you're doing Beastmaster upgrades, they do a lot of damage.
Yeah, which I believe is what I'm doing. Yeah, I think that's one of the big problems is I just require a little bit more difficulty. I would really like a hard mode in this game. I feel it's one of the biggest missing elements of this game is the ability to crank up the difficulty just a tiny bit. I think it would engage me a lot more. I know that I need to be like paying attention. And in that game, I would be talking to people at my house and just be like, yeah, so anyway, as I'm just like not even really looking and doing this with the gun. So
yeah, but I always feel like problems. Something I've liked with Borderlands is, I don't want to say it's mindless, like you have to pay attention to enemy weaknesses, but I've always liked that you can get to that point of just god moding people and shredding through them.
Yeah, I just wish it took me longer.
Yeah, I get that. For me, I think it's how we built. Because I built the crit for Beastmaster, and it took a while to really see the effects of my weapon damage buffs, of my crit buffs, because one of them you get a buff if you kill a badass enemy. But eventually I wasn't doing enough damage to finish off the badass enemies in a group of 4, by the way. So, you know, we had a ton of people shooting at them. So eventually, like, you know, I had to... It was a longer curve. So for me, once I hit that power curve, and I was like, wow, like, now I'm really kicking ass... Like, it felt satisfying, which is why when I think of Borderlands 3, I think of, like, the locales, the gunplay, and I think of it fondly. And that's why it's so frustrating with these bugs. And like you said, the compare button, Greedfall also missing one, really strange there.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with these games that are about they're about loot.
Yeah, and the HUD being very good in 2, very simple, and in 3... the small text is being adjusted, thank God. I usually don't have a problem with that outside of The Witcher 3. That was a big turnoff for me in The Witcher 3 initially, before they patched it. So I'm happy that they're looking into that. But Borderlands 3, I mean, if you guys remember, if you watch the streams, or I'm sure I mentioned on a podcast, like, I always just registered Borderlands 3 as it would probably be a safe buy. Like, it knew what it had to do, and if it dropped the ball in certain areas, which I thought was really rare, I thought it was improbable, rather. I was like, oh, it'll be a safe purchase. And everywhere that they dropped the ball that would have hurt the game, I think they did. I'm going to be honest. The story isn't as good. It's not as surprising, I think, it is also a big factor. There's a lot of bugs, technical issues, which, like I said, ladies and gentlemen, you know me by now. If it's hurting my experience, it will probably hurt yours. You know, and maybe I've just been unlucky. I've been playing 4-player co-op online. I will say it does run a little bit better when you're playing by yourself. That's where my 10+ hours of impressions came, along with a couple of hours of co-op. So there was more time spent in total by myself where the game did run fine. And I think that's important to note because I have a lot of people in my mentions when I posted that tweet saying, like, I'm having a great time. And some people saying I'm having an awful time and mentioning their circumstances with how they're playing. And so it's going to be hard, I think, for Gearbox to release a patch that's going to fix everybody. I think we may have a...
Right.
Or rather, I shouldn't say I think we'll have. I would not be surprised if we had a Ubisoft situation that we talk about where they release a patch and it performs worse for other people and better for others. Like, we may see a patch that addresses something in multiplayer that then hurts how the single player functions because of something going on that is underneath the hood. We've seen it happen time and time again with those Ubisoft games. So that's why I'm a little nervous about the patch and why I know they say they're just looking into it, but I'm surprised there has not been a big official comment like, hey, we're going to get into this, because I've never seen a game have such like spotty reactions, like very positive, very negative, very this is good but tack, very middle of the ground. Like, there is just impressions all over the place. It's really hard to gauge where people are at with this game. I've never really had that before. But anyway, Borderlands 3 gets its first limited time event quite soon. I am personally going to still play it because I hope by then my game will be working better. All right. Sony made a big splash and announced that there will be a state of play for September 24th, and The Last of Us Part 2 will be making an appearance. We're going to read the Sony PlayStation US blog. Hi all, excited to share the first details of PlayStation's next State of Play, which will air Tuesday, September 24th at 1 p.m. Pacific Time, 4 p.m. Eastern Time. We're preparing a pretty... Hold on. I gotta get a laugh. Wait, listen to this. We're preparing a pretty hefty show, weighing in at around 20 minutes.
I know. I don't get what the 20-minute thing is, but...
And sporting a fresh new look. And we'll have some great news to share with you, including new game reveals, new content from PlayStation's worldwide studios, and a host of other updates. Should be fun. Oh, and it probably bears mentioning, don't expect any updates related to our next-gen console plans in this episode. You can watch live on Twitch, YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook as usual. Can't wait to see what you think, and definitely keep that feedback coming. We read everything. So Sony did a State of Play a while ago, and then they sort of, it seemed, in my opinion, like an improvement, and then they went very quiet on it. And so now we're back. We know The Last of Us Part 2 will be in this. Do you have any expectations? Are you excited for this, my friend?
I was, until I did the same thing you did and realized they said 20 minutes. Because even if it was 20 minutes of
5 games?
Yeah, and even if it was 20 minutes of The Last of Us, since I'm not like in love with that game like everybody else, that would have also bored me. So let's say it's 10 minutes of Last of Us. That only leaves 10 minutes for every other. It's very short. It's ridiculously short. So hopefully there's something brand new, like super surprising, like Insomniac's new game, or something like that would be amazing if they were like, right? Oh, and by the way, Spider-Man 2's coming, or something. I don't know, but you know what I mean. Something big and impactful. Because 20 minutes, man,
that's short.
Dude, you and I prepare for a Twitch stream far longer than 20 minutes. Mm-hmm. Like, our prep is longer than 20 minutes. Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know.
We'll start off with predictions. Any bold predictions, and then any realistic ones.
Bold would be them showing, like, that Insomniac was doing Spider-Man 2.
Okay.
Super bold, because it'd be really early, but it would also be shocking. Realistic, it's just mostly Last of Us. And then, like, since they said no PS5, I don't even know what else there would be. Death Stranding and Last of Us. Like, that would be my realistic one.
Okay. So I'm just double checking one thing about The Last of Us. Hold on. Okay, so The Last of Us Part 2 is having a media event the same day as State of Play, where people are going to go and play it. So, sorry, I didn't mean to undermine your predictions there. I just remembered it. And
no, that doesn't undermine it, because when I read it as that was most likely being shown there.
Mm-hmm. I think it'll be, because of that, I think it'll probably be a trailer, and then we'll get more impressions from people playing the game through YouTube and Twitter. and that'll be interesting to see. That's the last game I expected to have like a press event. I thought they would keep that one very tight to their chest. I don't know if I want to see more of this game. I already know I'm very interested. I loved the first one. I know you were not a huge fan, but I loved the first one. So for me, bold prediction, I'm gonna say Horizon Zero Dawn sequel. That is my bold prediction. I think they're gonna come out and do that. I think it's gonna be like a quick teaser. Yeah, I would like to see that as well. I guess that wouldn't be bold. I think that might fall under the category of realistic, just because it has been enough time to announce a sequel. But at the same time, the reason I call it bold is because I don't think this is the show for it. I think if they came out at E3 next year, I hope at least Xbox will, and sort of just lays out a slate of games throughout the next, from 2020, mid 2020 to the summer of 2021, and it's all just next gen shit. That, oh my god, that'd be insane. Realistic expectation and prediction is going to be probably a little bit more on Final Fantasy VII. I feel like they've been churning along with that. I think that was a really good part of the last state of play, so I wouldn't be surprised to see a smidge more there. Like some cool collaboration, maybe a skin or something. I'm going to say Concrete Genie, Death Stranding, and then, the trailer of The Last of Us, like a 5-minute trailer, something extensive.
Concrete Genie looks good.
Oh, and Medieval. Medieval's going to be there for sure.
I forgot, because that went gold too.
Yeah, so I think it's going to be just showing off what's coming up soon, which might be smart, because Concrete Genie, like you said, I agree. I think that game looks really cool. I think that could be a sleeper hit. That game looks awesome. So I'm looking forward to that one. I think that also went gold, if I remember correctly.
It did, and I think there's something smart about them not throwing a shit ton of stuff. So maybe show one new thing, one thing everybody expects, and one thing everybody would be surprised by. Just be done. Let Concrete Genie or whatever couple games you have sort of have their own fucking window. Because lately, a lot of these games have just been like, they're just clouded by everything else. Yeah.
I think the best example of that this year has been Control. That didn't even rank in the top 20 for
23rd.
Yeah. It was,
sucks.
Yeah, and mind you, I read a stat that August was the all-time low in the industry in terms of game sales in I think since 1990 something. So a record low year. I think the timing personally makes a little sense, since we're ramping up for the fall, and there's going to be a lot of big games, and we're also preparing for next-gen consoles. But yeah, man, I mean, when you think of that, and then them, and they're not even getting there, but yet Astral Chain, which released on the 30th, managed to get in there. It does not bode well for Control. So, some games just get thrown out there. I think Control would have been a game a lot of people cared about if someone else was publishing it and tried to market it more, because that was
it wasn't marketed very much at all.
That's the thing. It wasn't even like what we could call bad marketing. It was just no marketing.
No, yeah.
Really strange.
There were issues behind the scenes with code generation. There was all kinds of problems. Yeah, there was all kinds of problems with 505, which is even sadder because they also today announced how much they got paid by Epic for exclusivity. It was almost about a third of their budget, if not a little bit more. And Remedy only got 45% out of it. 505 got 55% out of it. And I got to say, from what I saw of 505 versus what I saw from the guys at Remedy, that should be like 90% Remedy, 10% 505. Oh, because 505 didn't even appear to be like publishing it. It was ridiculous. And I like 505. Like, hey,
we're going to put our name on this box. Okay. All right, that's it.
Yep. Remedy also, I mean, a lot of people really liked it. I still see people on Twitter talking about it right now, but it's just, you have to get out there. You have to make it so that people want to play it.
I don't always gauge popularity based off us, but the way I look at it is, if you have a game that even you and I'm talking like a big AAA style game, that even you and I are like, wait, that's coming out soon? Or I should speak for you, but I'll speak for myself here. That's how I was with Control. I'm like, I don't even know what that game's about. I remember we talked about it in July. I'm like, that's something coming soon? You know, and when that's happening, then you're definitely not reaching as much of the people who aren't as enveloped in this gaming sphere, we'll call it. It's really sad. They clearly did not market it much. Maybe it was a budget thing. Hey, make a good game, hope it speaks for itself instead of making a subpar game and spending some of that budget on putting the word out there. That could have been behind the decision, but really.
Yeah, and I don't know,
strange.
maybe 505 gave him some, and this is not unheard of, but maybe 505, maybe Remedy got that right away, but then 505 also gave him more money instead of spending on publishing. But here's what's weird. This is one of the things I think hurts companies when they focus on streamers versus like previews and YouTubers and normal pages, is because streamers usually can garner support day one or a little bit prior, but since streamers are real time, the audiences go away instantly. There were not a lot of control previews until like 4 or 5 days prior to the game's release.
Yeah.
And they purposely allowed like only some streamers to stream it the day of. I think they did a women's international thing where they only allowed women to stream it, which
I do remember that.
A lot of people then were bothered by that because it was like where are we getting, like at what point are we getting to where it's like only a certain segment can do this? It does feel like that also burned them because they purposely really did shy away from a lot of people playing that game who would have probably pushed it, pretty heavily. And Focus Home, I think, is a good indicator of who usually handles it well. And
yeah, man, they're on the top of their game right now.
They're doing pretty well.
Focus Home has quickly ascended to one of my favorite publishers. I mean, think of it: Vampire, Greedfall, Plague Tale: Innocence.
Yep. What do you think they must feel like, though, since they sold the developers for Greedfall, and this is their biggest game? Big Ben owns them now. That must be sort of shitty to be like, we're publishing your game, but we're going to sell you, and then suddenly, like, they were #1 on Steam global sales for, like, 5 days in a row.
Yeah.
All I know is the one person I know there was like, trust me, people are freaking out at the company. Like, legit.
Like they fucked up?
No. Sorry, I meant at the developer.
Oh.
Their success, they were legit like in the hallways high-fiving each other.
Nice.
Like we finally made it. Yeah. And the fact that Focus sold them to Big Ben is like, but you know what?
I hope that Big Ben's like, all right, we get you're talented.
Exactly.
Here's instead of 5 million, here's 10. Make something else.
Yeah. We'll have to see how and what Spiders tries to do. I wouldn't mind a Greedfall. Well, not a Greedfall 2, but you know what I mean.
What's interesting about Greedfall, it kind of contradicts what we were just saying about Control, because Greedfall had a late push, but that sort of punching above its weight worked in its favor.
Also, it used a lot of YouTubers. I shouldn't say YouTubers like me and you, sorry, but I mean websites with YouTube, because, for example, IGN was releasing like the first 15 minutes they had hands-on like 3 weeks prior. And then they were doing a lot of interviews about like where BioWare Light, which I think we all worried meant, what does that fucking mean? Like, like you said, are they punching above their weight and they're not going to hit? They seem to have hit. But yeah, I don't know if it necessarily negates what we said. I just think that I do believe that a lot of it now, just looking at it, really has to do with focused on normal publishing and PR, where I just don't feel Greedfall did that at all. That's just my own personal opinion. It just feels like they did not focus. I didn't see a lot of storylines about Control. I didn't see a lot of preview, websites. It was sort of hands off. Right. Maybe that was Remedy. Who knows? Maybe they weren't ready. It's possible too.
Yeah, very strange situation. Anyway, State of Play, not much more to say. You got 20 minutes of content, and we'll be definitely discussing that next week on the show.
For about 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Unless it's something huge, it's going to be a weird little event, that's for sure.
We'll see. Next on the list, Final Fantasy VII Remake has a classic mode, which is more of your standard combat versus what we saw in the trailers and gameplay up to this date, where it's more action-based. So, there is a couple of tweets from the Final Fantasy VII Remake Twitter account. Let's go ahead and go through it. In standard modes, the ATB gauge, I forgot what ATB stands for, so we'll keep just calling it ATB, fills up by repeatedly attacking your enemy, but in classic mode, this aspect of the gameplay is handled automatically. The player does not need to do anything, and the character fights automatically, charging up their ATB gauge. So anyone playing Final Fantasy VII Remake in Classic mode does not have to worry about the action side of combat and can instead focus on selecting commands, making it possible to play Final Fantasy VII Remake as if it were a classic menu-based RPG. Do you like the sounds of that? Do you think more choice is good, or do you think they maybe, and I know this may be a reach here, but do you think maybe this is a misstep because they managed to sell so many people on a great-looking gameplay system and then sort of went back and had to rebalance the experience for this instead of going all in on this ATB combat?
Last week I was on Co-Optional, Total Biscuit's old podcast, with Jenna, and we talked about this because we were trying to figure out, like, first of all, the story thing, where are they going to cut off, because it's like episodic and all this stuff, and then there was this announcement, and the only thing I could come up with is that it does remind me of Greedfall, where Greedfall's got real-time combat, but it also has pause thing. I don't necessarily think that takes anything away from it. I feel that if somebody needs it, then it's there, and if somebody doesn't, then that's fine. And so to me, I'm actually pretty okay with it. I sort of like the idea of it because I think some people are going to want to look at those graphics in sort of a slower way. Because you know how it is. Bayonetta, for instance, some of Bayonetta happens so fast that one of the only ways to see it is like your footage. When you go back and look at footage and be like, oh, I missed that because I was not dying. And so I think with this game, it actually works because there's some cool looking combat, some cool looking effects, some cool looking monsters in some of the trailers they've shown. I think the idea of being able to see it a little slower is going to be very cool for some people. And it'll also, you know, that time when you're almost going to die and you're like, fuck, here it goes. Well, if you can now pause it, I mean, maybe that'll just make it a little bit more enjoyable for people. I don't have a problem with it.
Yeah, I just hope, because they're talking about it as a mode, I would like it, you mentioned Greedfall, I would like it as kind of a tactical pause where you can, in the middle of combat, sort of switch over and start handling the menus a little bit
versus
more.
Options, you mean?
Yeah.
Versus an options
Yeah,
menu.
versus like going into the settings, changing it, because then that tweaks the whole experience.
It does.
And so I think if you could switch over to classic mode and now the fighting's happening automatically and you're sort of going, all right, do I cure? Do I go on the attack? I think that would be interesting. I also wonder, because they're saying it handles the attacking, but if I remember correctly, there was like running for cover, there was blocking, that type of stuff had to be handled by the player. So that's what's confusing me about this classic mode, is it's not like, you know, you're both standing in place just fighting each other, unless they also change boss patterns and how that all works.
They absolutely could. Or go full XCOM, where like you have a movement and an attack each turn or something crazy like that. Yeah, that is true. I didn't even think about that. It probably will be a menu, though, if it's that ingrained. If it's that detailed, like you just said, which it probably will be, I didn't think about that. Most likely it won't, unfortunately, be a space bar. It'll be hit escape, go into the options, switch it to turn-based. You know, I didn't think about that.
Yeah. It'll probably be that, though. Yeah, it'll probably be a full-on mode, which will be interesting. I think it's good that people are supported in that manner, but I think ultimately, while options are good, and we'll always advocate for that here on this show, that it might have been more wiser to not deviate resources trying to balance two modes out,
right?
And instead,
do you think this will be grindy to you? I'm just worried that it'll be one of those games where like the trailers show it one way, and then you jump in, and it's still just as grindy and still just as... Like, I'm worried that an episodic game has a bunch of grind to it. For some reason, those two things don't feel like they should go together. In fact, usually I think of episodic as being packed because it is shorter, if that makes sense.
Right.
And so I'm just nervous that we're going to get Final Fantasy VII Remake, and we're going to turn it on, and it's... I don't know what would be grindy about it, but I just get nervous that's what's going to happen. And I don't feel like playing a JRPG with a bunch of grind. At least at this exact moment. I'm tired, and the idea of doing that does not appeal to me.
So when you say grind...
do you think it'll be grindy?
Do you mean the actual combat is a grind, or do you mean that what you have to
leveling up and all that kind of stuff?
That'll be interesting. Because in 7, the original 7, I mean, you definitely had to grind at certain points to level up. And some people love that grind, but I feel naturally JRPGs have sort of shifted away from that in exchange for actual content. And I think it's been a smart choice because I don't think it's such a Western move to only do that. I think it's just good for the game's health and for the enjoyment of the player. I personally think that they're going to streamline some of that stuff. Maybe give XP bonuses for quests. Yeah, I don't see. It depends how long the game is too. That's one thing I've rattled my brain about because they're like, oh yeah, it's Midgar. I'm like, Midgar isn't. Even if you make it all Hollywood produced, like Midgar isn't that long of a section in the game.
That came up during that podcast, is they were that, because they know it better than I do. Again,
Right.
I'm not the biggest Final Fantasy VII fan, but they were dropping the Midgar. Oh, it'll end right when you go out and about. And it's like, well, wait a minute. Like, does that mean the first one will be super short and then the next second or third or fourth
That's
one,
what I'm
depending on
saying.
how many, is it going to be huge? And then how do you go back? Like, yeah, I don't know, man. This game confuses the fuck out of me.
It does, because you see stuff like you call in a summon. I think it's Ifrit, and he has like a fire attack, and he set one of the bosses on fire, and the boss like jumped into the water to get the fire off of it, cool off, and hop back into the fight. It was like insane attention to detail. And when I saw that, something about that nature of design screamed to me, like you mentioned, more packed, more tight.
Right.
That's not something you do if the game's, I think, like 40 hours long. I don't think, at least. I could be wrong. I'll gladly eat my words, but I would not be surprised if this game was like 10 hours.
You know, either would I, and especially remember, it was, I think, Reddit, where that one developer who left posted behind the scenes and was like, this has changed. It's actually been reprogrammed at least once, as in stopped. We're like, this is not working. Let's try it again. And that means all that resource is gone. Mm-hmm. So I also agree that there might be they may not Hollywoodize it. I don't know what the term would be, but they may modernize it to where it's more about the story, more about those. Because remember, we all talk about the story. So-and-so dies, but not a lot of people say, I loved grinding. So maybe they're looking at it going, you know what? If people aren't in love with grinding, we'll minimize that. Not make it go away, but we'll minimize it a little bit. Maybe it's just like an hour in there. But then you look at the game and how much of it, that those extended hours was grind. Many. Typical JRPG, right? How many times have you played a JRPG and been like, how much did I play that was like story and stuff? And how much was grind? And then you're all, shit. I was like 50-50
Usually the older
something.
RPGs are more guilty
Especially
of that.
the older. Yeah, very much so. Very much so.
Yeah.
I mean, it looks good. I'll enjoy it, but I am not holding my breath for that to be a super long game. It does feel like it'll be shortened up.
Yeah, and I think it's just a testament to that, is that attention to detail. There have been very big games with attention to detail, but I'm talking like a boss mechanic like that that's specific to a summon that may or may not be there during the fight, because you have to determine if the player's going to call it in or not, or if they need to. That to me does not scream, we got 40 hours worth of gameplay here, and we had time to do this too, especially with how many times they restarted development. Let me see if there's actually an article.
Did you ever play Rise of the Argonauts?
I did not. I remember you asking me
I think
about
I've
that.
mentioned this. Yeah. They have a boss in there, dude. Probably one of the best boss designs I've ever seen in a game. If you pull off a special move against the boss, the ground collapses around him, and you have to fight him again like 8 hours later. So you can kill him then, or if you do this special thing, which they don't even tell you, he shows up later in the game, having basically got caught on the other side of a cave. And you end up going onto that other side of the cave and the other side of the island like 8 hours later. I love those kind of boss battles. It's very rare you see something like that. In fact, I think it's that and maybe one other game that did something that crazy.
So, according to the latest statements, it will take about 30 hours in a straight line to finish the game, and more to finish secondary quests. Just like a normal game, this first remake will have its share of side activities in addition to the main story. In addition to finding well-known places that you probably already visited on the PS1 version more than 20 years ago, you will also cross new places with a much more vibrant city than before, with new areas that could not be visited on the first PlayStation. The game will, for example, represent life under the platform and above the platform to show the difference between the classes of people. More than a remake, it is a new interpretation of the story for Final Fantasy VII, as we discovered it more than 20 years ago. Last I heard, the game should be in 3 chapters, but this information is still to be determined, as the initial plans for Square Enix may change over time. This is
reimagining lets them get away with like changing it for sure.
Yeah, this is also important. Yoshinori Kitase, has indeed confirmed that all parts of Final Fantasy VII Remake will have content equivalent to a canonical episode of the license. The first chapter of Final Fantasy VII Remake has an intro, a middle, and an end, and will not end with a cliffhanger. The game fits on 2 Blu-ray discs on PS4, so that alone, I don't think you could do a short game and have it be on 2 Blu-ray discs, as far as I'm concerned. Which is explained by the density of Midgar, which is close to an open world. With Final Fantasy VII Remake, developers can tell the story in a whole new way and make the world around Cloud and the other protagonists/bad guys who are at the heart of the game more coherent.
Oh, you know what? I bet you $1 million. I think I know what they're going to do with that. They're going to remove a lot of the grind and just have quests and story. So you get XP for leveling up, where a lot of it used to be grind.
Which is modernized in its own way.
Which is modernized in its own way. So if they're like, okay, well, we had 8 hours of grind over here. Can we replace 5 of it with story grind, where you do quests for people? That could work out for sure.
Yeah, I mean, there it is in print. So
I don't know about you. I'm also... You seem to be looking forward to it. I don't think I've ever asked. You're pretty excited for it, right?
Absolutely.
Because you're a Final Fantasy.
Yeah.
Haven't yet got to that point.
I think...
I don't know
see,
why.
What's the thing is, I already know the story. I thought that it was a good story. Not, like, great, but it was a good story. Enjoyable. But I just love the world of Final Fantasy VII and the music... those were the types of things that really brought me in, and then the secrets you could discover. That's what made me love that game. And I'm one of the people who played it for the first time in 2012. I played it really.
Is it your favorite Final Fantasy?
Some days it's Type 0 HD. I really like
Some
that
days.
one. Yeah. I really like that one because it just that game was a tearjerker. I liked it, and that game had a good style to it. But yeah, I'm definitely one of those people who thinks 7's really, really good. You know, I know there are people who go, it's not as good, but yeah, it's probably my favorite. 10 was really good as well, but 10 I think wavered a little bit in the middle and had some weird stuff going on, but the story was really emotional. But yeah, I couldn't stand 12. I think 13-2 is very underrated. I can confidently say I think that's the most underrated in the entire franchise, but that is just my hot take, and I'm probably sure I invalidated anything else I will say about Final Fantasy for the rest of my career. But
it doesn't matter what you say, somebody's going to be mad when it comes to Final Fantasy.
Yeah. All right. Actually, I'm sorry. Wait. Oh, I misread. We still have more. Let's talk about games that we're anticipating for the rest of the year, because I thought, the news would run short, which it did. So, Karak, are there any games for the rest of the year that you're most looking forward to? A top 3, if you will.
Shit. So we were talking about something else a couple weeks ago, and I was stunned that I had forgotten this game. And I wanted to make sure I mentioned it on the podcast. Give me 1 second. Let me look at this release list. There is for sure a game that when I saw it come up, I was stunned neither one of us mentioned it. Come on, there we go. Let me look here. It was... Oh, fuck. Okay, there we go. All right. Fuck. What is happening here? Come on, computer. Okay. So, looking at November. There was something here. November. Okay, first of all, Age of Empires, for sure.
Okay.
A big age. Oh, Doom Eternal. I'm very much looking for that. Not because I think it's going to be amazing, but I'm actually just interested in seeing how it all comes together. And then there was Mech Warrior 5. Now, that's just for me, because I know you're certainly not a uber Mech Warrior nerd like me, but I'm a big fan of giant robots, super slow.
Right.
You like hammering the fuck out of each other with tank guns. So, yeah, Mech Warrior 5, I'm a big nerd.
Interesting. Those are your top 3?
Yeah, those would probably be my top 3 because, I mean... Mario. Wait, did I miss a Mario and Sonic? Okay, forget that.
Ooh, that one looks cool, though.
Oh, does it? The Mario and Sonic at
Mario
the Olympic
Sonic
Games?
Olympics? Yeah.
It looks really?
It looks really fun.
I thought the name just indicated absolute shit, so I'll look at that.
I'll be honest, man. It looks like a lot of fun. I don't know if it'll end up being good, but it looks like a fun-ass party game.
Nope, for sure. One replacing the ones I said. Moons of Madness. Absolutely, Moons of Madness.
What is
That's
that?
the Prey. That's the game that looks like Prey.
Oh.
But it's like it's like Cthulhu mixed with Prey, mixed with
Sounds up your alley.
observation, but it's a shooter, and yeah, definitely. They showed it at E3, I think, and when I saw it, I was just like, I am all over this. So that one definitely.
Nice. For me, first one's pretty obvious, The Outer Worlds. Number 2 is coming out just next week. Really, really snuck up on me because I was not aware of this. So, quick little history lesson. Spike Chunsoft had 2 developers underneath their brand. One was Kazutaka Kodaka, who worked on the Danganronpa series. For those of you who don't know, Danganronpa is easily one of my favorite series of all time. And then, I'm getting his name right now, Kotaro Uchikoshi. Sorry, I want to make sure I didn't butcher his name too much. He, I believe, let me just fact check this real quick. Hold on. Okay, yep, it is by him. Okay, so Kotaro Uchikoshi is more responsible for the other side of the puzzle, known as Zero Escape, which is a really good series outside of, I will say, the last one, Time Dilemma. Time Dilemma, oh god, I don't like that game at all. But the first and second Zero Escape games were fantastic, and they have a brand new game from this developer coming off because they had left Spike Chunsoft, I believe, or they have their own development studio, something along those lines, and I think Spike is still publishing, but they're making a game called AI: The Somnium Files. And this comes out on the 24th, and apparently this is like I said, a detective story where you like go into people's dreams, and it's a murder mystery game. And yes, once again, it is kind of like a visual novel style experience. But there have been reviews already out, and it is a very, very overwhelmingly positive reception so far for the game, which has me stoked because apparently it's sort of like an adventure game, not more gameplay focused, very story driven. And I kind of want that as a palate cleanser more so, like I was just mentioning with Borderlands and how it's just very hectic and on screen. Like, this is a good game that's just, give me text, give me cutscenes, give me interaction with the environment, let me think in a different way. I love these types of games. I love them. Would not be surprised if this one like instantly crawled up my list because these people have had a history of making some fantastic games that I've really enjoyed. They have not, outside of Time Dilemma, these two have never steered me wrong on any of their games. So for those who are wondering, Kaz is working on a game called Death March Club, which is about as fucked up as you can imagine. It's about a couple of little kids trapped in an underwater base run by a clown, and it's sort of like Danganronpa, where killing is how you escape. But like I said, very young people, so that's why it's really strange. Oddly enough, published by Konami, sort of withered away some of my hype. But certainly AI: The Somnium Files is one that I'm very much looking forward to next week. And then last on the list, I've really thought about this one a lot, and it's been hard to pick because these were the 2 games that always like pop up in my mind. Like, I'm very much a natural thinker in that manner, where I don't try to go objective with my selections on a most anticipated list. I'm like, hey, if I'm looking forward to it, it's probably because it came to mind first. So I've really struggled with adding a third option to the list. I feel like any more would probably be very forced, but you did mention Mario and Sonic Olympics, and anytime I do think of that, I get excited at the thought of my friends and I gathering around and like doing karate with like Tails and Mario or something like that. I love these party games that get people around the TV. The last game to really do that with my friends and I was Smash Brothers, which we still play together. So I'm happy to have another one like this that looks really fun. So I would probably throw that in there. Doom Eternal is one that I'm a little... just some of the development stories I've heard, we'll say, has sort of made me a little more cautiously optimistic than full-on excited for that game. And also, as a lot of people know, I was not super hyped or I was not super into the first one. I liked it, gave it a recommendation, said people should buy it, but I wasn't like over the moon playing it for years like many people are. But yeah, like I said, some of the development stories I've heard for Doom Eternal have left me a little worried, we'll say. And plus, with how Bethesda's been interjecting microtransactions, I would not be surprised if Doom Eternal was subject to that. But those are the games I'm most looking forward to. And I guess with that, if you'd like, Karak, we can move on to Patron questions.
Yeah, I was going to say, do you think, are you just, I don't remember what you didn't like, or not that you didn't, but what didn't grab you about Doom.
I think it just got repetitive for me, late game.
Oh, okay. With the new one, do you think it's the reason why it's not grabbing you is because it looks more the same, or is it more just like development stories, or more worried about?
Yeah, a couple of behind the scenes things. Like I said, I've heard. I don't want to get into it too much. We can talk about it afterwards, but yeah, that type of stuff definitely had me a little. And then, but it was more so just. I like mindless action. Like I've always said to people, the Warriors games, like Dynasty Warriors, Fire Emblem Warriors, so on, guilty pleasure. You know, I can shut off my brain and do that stuff. I just think Doom's not that type of game for me. You know what I'm saying? Okay. So I just don't think it clicked. So that was primary interest. Like it looks epic. It looks awesome. I think I'll like it. I think I'll enjoy it like I did with the first one. But it's going to have to elevate in other areas because it looks like more of the same. And I already saw people kind of critiquing what I had critiqued in the first one with Eternal. In the first one, I said a lot of times that it didn't feel satisfying pulling off like my 800th glory kill because, you know, I'm just constantly doing it 8 times a battle, 20 times a battle. And so breaking legs and ripping off heads, it just felt like a part of the, it was like just another run of the mill battle. Right. And even when I was switching weapons, it was just to switch weapons. It wasn't like I felt like I was targeting a weakness or something. So if they can evolve the enemy design a little bit more, I like how there's more traversal in Doom Eternal. I think that type of stuff, and by the way, I might be forgetting something with enemy weaknesses. I don't recall any of that, but if they can evolve that type of stuff, I think that would pull me in a little bit deeper.
Fair enough. Gotcha. That makes sense.
All right. Now we're going to get into the patron questions. You may be wondering why we didn't have any throughout the show, and it's because none of them tied into our topics, which I think what we'll start doing from now on is we'll share our topics in the patron questions section on the Discord. See if you guys have any questions for those on top of just general questions. So we'll try to do that so we can get you guys incorporated more throughout the show. First one is a hard-hitting one, Karak, but we like to help all patrons out in any way possible. Pivotal Pilot asks us, how do you deal with a breakup? Karak did not expect that.
I didn't, and my advice probably isn't the most healthy. Okay. How do you...
I can start if you'd like to.
Yeah, you go ahead, and I'll feed off you. Okay. And depend on where you go.
Okay. So my suggestion... I don't know your age, Pivotal, because I know when I was younger, when I went through a breakup, it hit me hard. I was very, out of it. I remember one podcast, Karak, you'll remember, I think we had Jonah Loeb on, and we had Dogtooth on, and I actually, just got dumped, during that podcast. And so I was, just being a trooper through the whole show. The reason I mention that is because I think it's a testament to what you should try to do, which is, keep living your life day by day. Keep focused on your tasks, your hobbies, pushing yourself forward, bettering yourself. Because at the end of the day, someone else cannot define that for you. They can't take that away from you. And that's something that you can always hold on to and say, this is mine. And no one can destroy it. No, I always say, no one can destroy my work ethic. No one can say I don't work hard. Maybe sometimes you think my work isn't the best, but you can't take away that I bust my ass, and I take pride in that. So no matter what happens with anyone around me, I know I always have that. And that's kind of my suggestion is, build those personal qualities by continuing to work and focusing on careers or finding new hobbies, finding exciting stuff. Will it, erase your pain, your upsetment? No. That's not what's going to happen. There's no magical serum or remedy here. It's just time. Time heals, and just give it time. I don't know what kind of breakup you went through. It sounds like, based on what you asked, just a standard one. And so just give it time and keep focusing on other stuff. Don't erase what happened in the past, but think of positives with it when it does come across the mind, and just continue to move on. Don't hang your hat and hope that person will come back in some fairy tale kind of way. I've never been a believer in that. That may sound awful to say, but I just believe what's done is done. I've never really circled back to an ex in my entire life. So that's just be my parting advice. And now Karak will come in with the hard-hitting adult advice.
No, I mean, that's the question too is who. It does matter, I think, who broke up with who and why, because there's all kinds.
That's true.
Like if it's uncontrollable, then the advice is to, like, that's life, and you're gonna have to move on, and it'll suck for a while. There's, like you said, there's just continue to be active.
Yeah.
But if it's like something that you look back at and you're like, I could fix, then. I mean, I don't know. People break up for some weird fucking reasons. I never quite know what somebody's saying, but I would agree with pretty much everything you say. I mean, admittedly, I'm a serial breakupper.
Oh, no.
So, yeah, so I don't, it's going to sound weird. I think I was dumped once in like 6th grade, and that was it.
Damn,
and
this guy's a stud.
No, this guy's a jack-off, because what I would do is I would break up way too soon.
Okay.
Probably because I didn't want to have to worry about it. So I was just like, problems, not going to worry about it. Fucking, I'm done.
I get that. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I get
yeah.
your path of thought, what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah. And so it really does depend on all that. But I think time, I mean, there's been bad ones where I broke up and I was still unhappy though. But it's all, it is all about time. And it's all about, man, don't fucking, I'll give you better advice, not to deal necessarily with the breakup, but something you should do going into your next relationship. Just fucking make sure you do not ignore your friends or your family that you already had. Because I'm going to tell you, that can be a disaster that is unrecoverable in real life. Yeah. Especially if you have close friends and you got that guy friend, we've all had one, who starts banging the chick, or a chick who's banging a dude, or dudes banging dudes, or chicks banging chicks, and they disappear. And something bad happens and they come back and everything in your life is different than everything in there. Things don't fit anymore. Man, don't do that shit. It's bad for everybody involved, and it focuses you way too much on this relationship that, like,
it's supposed to
you
be
don't even know if it's going to work out. Yeah. And man, don't. Because I would say I did lose a friend because of that. One of my closest friends. And the idea is just, we're never getting that back. And that sucks. Like, that's horrendous. So just keep track of everybody around you and make sure to not lose them regardless of what you personally are doing with somebody else. And get back to banging, man. Get back to banging. That'll be my end sentence. Get back to banging.
There we go. Positive exit. Aunt Jemima. Sorry.
Aunt Jemima, yeah.
Do either of you have an all-time... See, I don't know who this patron is, just because, like, I don't know if it's someone who changed their name.
Yeah, right.
Do either of you have an all-time goal for your respective YouTube platforms, like a specific dream opportunity, level of influence, or amount of resources at your disposal?
Fuck, dude. Do you know what I want? I want to be able to pay some bills. That's it. And I still can't. I have goals that are higher than that, but my general hope is to be able to, like, live even semi-comfortably without the worry that every day something will be demonetized. And that has not occurred.
Yeah.
I
feel like I've grown up in this discomfort with our job, I guess. So for me, I don't want to say you're not used to it. It's the only type of paying work outside of, like, helping out with yard work and whatnot in my local development and doing landscaping, that type of stuff, where, you know, it's I think a different form of work. But this is the only type of paid work I really know, so I'm used to how it's very fluctuating up and down, and I guess I sort of just maybe sometimes bury my head in the sand, but sometimes erase those concerns. My dream goal / opportunity would be able to, like, comfortably create in a sense of, if I don't have a good video idea for the day, that I can just shut off the computer, walk away, and not have to worry about losing revenue, losing channel growth, losing traction in the sub boxes, because that's the main thing. It's less about the revenue and growth and more about that if you don't upload consistently, unless, like, for example, you're in Karak's position where you have, like, a very like I'd say a title, sort of like you are like the biggest independent reviewer. So people will search you out no matter what. I feel it doesn't change that there's struggles there, but like for me, if I stop uploading for a couple of days, is it the end of my world? Is it the end of my career? No, but it hurts me, and I would love to be in a position where I can comfortably go and make like a 30-minute video on something and put it out and have the confidence of knowing a lot of people will seek that out and it will perform well, and that I can shift my lifestyle to something like that because I think it would be healthier for me. That's the thing, is I think sometimes my workload becomes a little unhealthy, and I've fixed that by A, giving myself breaks regardless, and B, paying an editor every now and then to help me out. Like Monday's video will be handled by an editor because I have a wedding this weekend I'm going to, my first ever wedding, and I won't be available. And so I'm like, you know what? I'm going to send him the footage. I'm going to send him the commentary, have him put it all together, and I just have to come home and upload it, and I'll pay him. And that's it. And sometimes you got to work smarter, not harder. And I'm very fortunate to have that. But yeah, that would probably be my dream, just to be able to alleviate some time for myself. More than usual, I guess. Like, I would love to have a steady, I usually do, but lately I haven't, like a steady Monday through Friday, like 10 to 5, 9 to 5, and then weekends off.
And I would say for me, a big part that changed is, being married. Because not being married, I probably would be more in line with just like, not lackadaisical, but a little less stressed about it. But when you have another person creating income, what if they get fired? So now you got to sort of, I've always been a believer that I sort of need to make a certain amount, do a certain amount, so that if another person loses their job, they're not going to die. Yeah. And then they should do the same. Yeah, they should do the same for me. And that's exactly what happened when I got laid off. I just covered this in the podcast. When I got laid off, luckily, my wife was able to say, you can have 2 years to try what you need to try in YouTube. But yeah, it's crazy. And I think also goals change. I change my goals all the time. Oh,
yeah, for sure.
And I have mini goals, or what I would term as like short-term goals, which would be whatever review I'm doing. Long-term goals, which is like growth of stuff, and then, or midterm goals. And then the long-term ones are that comfortable moment, like you said, where you don't have to upload right away.
Like your review can come a couple of days late, kind of thing.
Or
sometimes you do that anyway, and you're
to
fine,
be honest, I would be different than you. I almost would want to do your stuff. So reviews I'm okay with, but I've told you this before, I don't have long-term views at all. 0. I'll go down to like $9 a day on YouTube all the time because my views do amazing in the review and then dump because the review is only usable that small amount of time. Yeah. So what I would like to do to be comfortable is to be able to make those side videos like you were talking about. So pretty much we have the same goal. It's just we're getting there in different ways. And I would like to be able to do those and know that they were going to do well, because they don't necessarily perform spectacularly. People do look at me for reviews, but they do not go to me for, anything else. I have my core that may check it out, but I don't think anybody's searching for like the international podcast anytime soon. And I do those because they're fun.
Yeah, podcasts.
Dude, podcasts are ridiculously tough. People don't realize they rarely do well. They're more of a social outlet, and enjoyable than they ever are return, unless you're IGN or I Kinda Funny or something where you've got fucking wrestling matches and shit.
Or Colin, you like they make all their money off podcasts and audio services, which is awesome. I think it's cool that people can find that success there. I thought it was impossible, and for us it's really tough. So
it's insanely difficult to do.
I think your videos in between, when you do sit down and do a discussion, they do tend to do like in the middle, like a 30-40K performance, which is great. And I think people
they just
like
don't
that from
stay
you.
there though, Matty. That's what bothers me. Because you and I have talked about this. Yeah, and I go and look at other people, and they're consistently getting like a certain number of subscribers every. And I'll look at my views, and my views, even if like you're all right. I shouldn't say that those side videos don't do okay view wise, but they're very short. Everything I have, if you look at my fucking analytics, it's the worst roller coaster ride in the universe. And I would like a little more stability, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
just a little bit more.
No, I get that. We could talk that out behind the scenes. Paul has a question for you, Karak. He says this goes for both of you, more specifically Karak, though I can't answer this. I was wondering how you felt about drag racing, NHRA balls to the wall, blink, and you'll miss it racing. I don't know what that means, but Karak, all you.
I
have
don't
no
think he
thoughts.
means the game. I think he means, do I like drag racing?
I remember
And
you
I'll
saying
just say,
you raced in some way.
Yeah, but that was more street. But yeah, drag races are cool. Anything where somebody can be ejected into the stratosphere just due to a vehicle is fun to fucking me, man. I love that shit. I won't go and watch it very much, but I love, like, there's something about that just utter horsepower. I have a friend who has a Tesla, and you get in it, it's an electric vehicle, and when it drives, it's insanely fast, Maddie. Like, it'll make it feels like your face is being pulled off your skull when they go. And I have a fast car. This thing is ridiculous, but there's no sound. So you're in it, and it's like, and then you get in my car, and I give it gas, and it's like, whoa! And I got to admit, I like that secondary. I like the sound, and so yeah, drag racing's fun. It is just going in a straight line really fast, though.
I've had this desire to go watch NASCAR, like in person.
Oh,
I mean,
dude, it's a
person.
huge deal. The crowds are awesome at NASCAR. Bunch of rednecks, of course. You got to be prepped for that. But
I don't know. I heard someone talking about it. I was like, I think being there and watching like the strategy of when you go into the pit,
you draft
come
and
out,
all that,
yeah, like that could be really neat. Getting a close look at. I don't think if watching it on TV would be fun because you're just watching cars go in circles. But I think like seeing up close and personal the strategy and feeling like the vroom as they zoom by, like I think that could be awesome. I don't know why I want to do it though. I'm probably going to do it sometime in the next year.
I think you'd enjoy. I mean, it's just one of those chaotic events. You at least see it once, and then you can decide from there if you ever want to go again. But I think you would enjoy it. I don't know if you would go multiple times, but you certainly do get a little, like, some knowledge when you watch them versus the fucking video where they're going left all the time, and you're like, this is the most boring thing I've ever seen.
Next question comes from Reticle Shark. I also can't answer this as well. Maybe you can. Are you excited for the upcoming Terminator game?
Am I excited for it?
Yeah, yeah. I saw a screenshot. It looks like Wolfenstein.
yeah. I'm not a big Terminator fan anymore.
Yeah, I never was anyway. So.
Oh, really? So you weren't even a fan of like 2 or 3 or just the movies in general? Yeah, you don't go a lot of movies.
Yeah, they're classics. I respect them, but it's sort of, and like the infamous lines like "Get to the chopper." Yeah. That's their Terminator, right? Am I wrong?
Get to the chopper is Predator.
Oh no!
Terminator is all back.
I can feel the audience pulling their hair out.
Right now, dude, somebody is like cocking a gun and they're like finding your address. But yeah, I get what you mean. The one.
Yeah, fuck. All right, then I have no clue what I'm talking about. Do you have any thoughts on this Terminator game though? Clearly, I'm not in the right place to speak about this.
Yeah. I don't think I give a shit because the companies that are making it aren't really that impressive. Not that that can't turn out to be good, but it feels to me like a cash-in. Like they somehow got the Terminator rights, and the movie's coming out, the new movie's coming out. I think it's that kind of thing. Did you play Gears of War 5 and the Sarah Connor? Because you could get Sarah Connor's skin in multiplayer. I don't know if you've done a lot of Gears multiplayer.
I haven't played Gears 5 at all. I never got a code or anything. I mean, granted, I could sign up for Game Pass, but I never got a review code or response or anything, which was kind of weird.
And your friends group is not super Gears oriented, obviously. No. Otherwise, I think you would have. Okay.
They're more PlayStation based.
Yeah, gotcha.
Crazy Herb asks a very on-topic question for this Friday. What's your favorite Zelda games? Because for those who don't know, as we record this podcast, the new Link's Awakening game has just released. I have 2 Zelda games I really like. I've never been a humongous Zelda fan. In fact, the one Zelda game I did like for most of my life was Twilight Princess on the Wii. And the main reason for that was when I was growing up, I always wanted a game I could swing the Wiimote and swing my sword. I thought that level of motion control was really cool. But also I just liked how the universe was a little bit darker and it had a more grim tone to it. But obviously Breath of the Wild would rank in my other one and is easily my favorite Zelda game. I just think that open world nature, the art style, the exploration, the creativity on display, it feels like every month I'm seeing something new about that game, that like someone can complete a quest in a different way that I never imagined or is doing a cool in-game challenge. It's just a fun world to be in, and I've gained an extra level of respect for it as I've watched my girlfriend play it. She has about 90, 80 hours in it. She loves it to death because she loves Zelda far more than I, and so she's been like finding everything, and it's made me really appreciate how dense that game is. Link's Awakening was one of the first Zelda games I ever played, and I do like it. I don't know if I ever beat it or not. But it was like one of my first games I ever played, right next to Pokemon Blue. So I have fond memories of that. I would like to play the Link's Awakening remake, but I don't like the art style. I don't like the art style. I can't stand it. But those are just two of my favorites. Do you have any favorites?
Wind Waker, which just sounds like you probably wouldn't like due to the
I couldn't
cell
stand
shading.
the intro. No,
Yeah.
I like cell shading, but I couldn't stand the intro. Wind Waker looks beautiful. I would play that if they got rid of the whole fucking 4-hour prison entrance.
Sorry. I should preface all this. Preface all this. I don't like Zelda games.
Okay.
So I meant visually, because I don't like Zelda games. I'm only going on the visuals. And Twilight Princess and Wind Waker are the most. I like Twilight Princess because it was darker, just like you said, and I thought it was a definite step up in its look. I really liked that look, but I also liked Wind Waker because nothing looked like that from Zelda ever. So other Zelda games always look like Zelda being Zelda, and then that game you're like, wait, what? Like, graphically, this doesn't look... So to me, that was really visually striking, but I have never, ever been a Zelda fan. Like, ever. And I've tried multiple ones, and I finally realized it just doesn't work for me. I don't know why.
That's how I felt until Breath of the Wild. That was like the one that worked, and obviously I was younger at the time, but Twilight Princess just stuck out for very different reasons.
That graphics on Twilight, dude, is... Because Twilight was the one that also was on another system, right? It was Wii and Wii U. Was that Twilight?
I think it was Wii and GameCube, I want to say.
Oh, okay. No, you're right. You were right, because it was on GameCube and Wii, I think. No, I think you are right. Because I know one was distinct. There was different graphic style or graphics.
I know that Breath of the Wild was on Wii U and what's it called? Switch. Zelda Twilight Princess is in fact on GameCube. I just looked.
Just GameCube?
It's on both Wii and GameCube.
Okay, yeah. So Twilight Princess, I like the look. I like the darker thought process. And from what I understand, this new one, or not the new one, but the Switch one, not this cartoony one. Sorry, the original Switch one, is a little bit darker as well. And I would say that the little bits I played, because I own it, I sort of dug the way it looked. It's just its performance was really shitty in that starting area. And speaking of making you sick, it actually made me a little bit not woozy, a little bit of that, like, because remember the forest and the trees, and it was about 28 FPS, and I just remember on a small screen I wasn't accustomed to playing it yet.
Yeah.
I'm more accustomed now.
Yeah, I get that. Kopi asks us, are you buying a Switch Lite? No.
Fuck no.
No. It's enticing to buy a new toy, but I'm all right. There's no demand for it. When I want to play my Switch, I pick up the one that can charge in a dock safely, and then I can play docked. I don't see, unless I'm like 8 years old, why I would need a Switch Lite ever.
There's nothing about that. Also, the fact that they just announced that Switch Fit whatever that doesn't even work with it. VR doesn't work. Not that I'll jump into Labo, but it's limited, and it's limited for no real reason. So, definitely not getting a Switch Lite.
Yeah, no interest. Johnny EC has two questions. One, what's a video game mechanic you wish never existed and why? Mine is Fog of War, where the map is not revealed until you go to that location and uncover it. It feels like forced exploration instead of naturally being interested in the world and exploring it on your own. That's an interesting take, Johnny. I never thought of it that way. I liked Fog of War because I feel if the game tells you everything that's there, it sort of directs where you're going to explore, like, instead of naturally just going there, right? I just stopped paying attention to the map in general, like the overall, you open up the menu kind of map and just explore that way. I keep myself in game as much as possible now. A mechanic that I wish was never in a game or invented, or does he say you wish never existed? Oof.
I mean, there's some that I don't think have worked well in multiple games, but I don't really ever, you know me, I don't really put my foot down and be like, how dare you? Mm-hmm. Like, there's not a necessary, I mean, no. I was going to say something to do with saves, but go ahead.
Cameras that rotate when you go reverse in vehicles in games.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
my God.
Isn't that a shitter?
Yeah.
Isn't that a complete shitter?
Yeah.
Like, it makes no sense to do that, actually.
Because then then it inverts the controls at the same time. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. Just let me rotate the camera. Let me steer the vehicle. Keep it the same. Oh, my gosh. The Sleeping Dogs, I love you, but you did that far too much. One of the worst reverses in a video game, period.
To me, I guess Resident Evils do something that I don't necessarily like. I don't like cumbersome inventories, and when you mix and match things in the inventory, I don't know why, but that bothers me a lot. I've never played it
over like the red with the green.
I don't. And you know, I've never actually like that. I think that's because a lot of times I don't know if I have red, but I just got a green. So then you know you have to go into the inventory to verify you've got a red so that you can mix it with the green. So something about that always has been. It just hasn't been nailed. Again, I don't have one I hate. I just don't think that's been nailed exactly correctly. It would almost be cool if you got the red one and it gave you an icon and then like gave you a plus marker indicating you have something in your inventory you can mix it with or something. You know what I mean? Like something visually so you don't have to jump back into the inventory.
Right.
I don't like inventory stuff, man. In fact,
because UI's gotten
inventory
progressively worse in games, I think.
Very much so. And progressively more slow.
Yeah.
Like going between tabs or whatever, and you click a button, it's like, it's animated, and you're like, why? Why is it animated?
Just have the menu function. Let us
Fuck.
move.
Yeah, exactly. Why is it animated? You just took or have you ever paused a game? Not paused a game, but went into the map, and the map takes like 4 seconds to load, and you're like, how is that possible? I hit a map button, it's all, and then it pops up, and you're just like, oh, I'm done going to the map now. Those little things are more bothersome.
Yeah, loading or waiting within the menu that's supposed to pause the game.
Yeah.
The worst.
Yeah, for sure.
He also asks, what's something you wish you could see in your lifetime? Could be anything outside video games.
Oh, fuck. Being on Mars.
Yeah.
Humans on Mars.
Yeah,
I want
think
us off
that's
this planet as quick as possible.
Yeah, humans on Mars, that's a good one. Selfishly, I want to see the Rangers win a Stanley Cup. I want to see the Mets win a World Series.
Wow, from Mars to your sports team winning a Stanley Cup. That's a dichotomy right there.
Yeah, I want that to happen. Then they can go play hockey on Mars. I don't care. I just want to see it. I want to be that person who has their team that they've rooted for years for win a championship. That's all I want. So yeah, I hope to see that. I also want to see electric vehicles become the norm. I think that would be really cool if that's a plausible future.
I think, yeah, I mean, it seems like it's very plausible, especially now. I think you and I, though, are going to grow up to a point that the enjoyment of driving a car is going to be very lean, and I think that sucks. I enjoy driving my car, and we already have self-driving cars. Self-driving Ubers, we have all this stuff, and the enjoyment of driving a car is very high to me, and I have a feeling insurance is quite quickly going to start rising for people who choose to manually drive. They'll just be like, okay, you want to manually drive, it's going to cost you, 4 times as much, which admittedly, if you get computers the right way, that's actually the way it should work. But but I like taking a drive or a motorbike ride.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's something about
sometimes.
Oh, dude, yeah. And the idea of having a car drive me, I know I'd just fall asleep. That's, like if a car is like, oh, we're going to drive to see your parents. If I'm driving, it's an experience. If a computer's driving, it's the back of my eyelids. I just know that would happen. I just wouldn't give a shit, So that sucks, I think.
Yeah. Ben Jam, what is one video game memory and non-video game memory you wish you could erase and experience again for the first time?
One video game and one non-video game?
Yeah, one non-video game memory.
Winning my first martial arts tournament would probably be number one.
That's dope. I like that.
Yeah, outside. Whoa, sorry about my dogs.
Nah, you're good.
That would be my non. What about you for non?
Non?
Sorry, I have no clue. Hey, shut up, guys. Jesus Christ.
I like how they actually simmer down. That's so funny.
They did for a second, and then I think it's a mailman.
Yeah, probably. New review copy. There's so many moments I could pick out, which is a good thing, I think. I think of the first time my channel was blowing up.
Oh, yeah.
I remember having my iPod email linked to my YouTube email. And so I remember posting my first Skyrim rare weapon guide, and that's all I heard was like, ding, ding, ding. And I jumped up and down in my room, like, ecstatic as shit, because I couldn't believe it was actually happening, and, like, I was going to have my first bit of growth. That was really cool. But I'd probably say, like, you know, I remember the first time I met my girlfriend, my first ever hockey tournament where I traveled to Edmonton. That was a memory I'll always hold on to, you know, the nerves before, like, a really big game. Performing, funny enough, you mentioned martial arts, but performing martial arts in front of my family, that's something I'll always remember. Picking up Revan, my new puppy from this year for the first time. There's just so many good memories. I can't really pick one. It's really tough.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to, like, picking a memory, it's usually just the ones you can access, and then, like, the next day, you'll think about the question again and be like, why didn't I mention these other 5? Yeah. So, yeah, it's definitely difficult, because there's a lot. What about gaming one? Like a gaming memory?
Fallout 4 hype train. That, you know, Fallout 4 may have been, like, a little bit of a roller coaster afterwards, but that ride to the game, I will always fondly remember. That was some of the most fun I've ever had with a video game, without a game actually having to be in my hands. I thought that was insane, just to be in the middle of that with a bunch of community members. And I know a lot of people rather feel the same way, because anytime I stream, at least 5 people will come in and tell me how, like, hey man, been watching since Fallout 4 hype train, been watching since Survivor 2299, and just to go through that journey with a bunch of people, and then, like, eventually you get to shake their hands at conventions because you built up a community. I think that's really cool. So that would definitely be mine.
I mean, I don't really know of a game one.
A story moment, a co-op moment with a friend, picking up a console with a friend. I fondly remember getting my Xbox One, like, holding spot online. I think I was second online. Mm-hmm. And I just waited online, and then my friend showed up, and from, like, 4 till midnight, we were just chilling outside, like, reading books and sharing stories, and
I've got one.
Cool. All right, let's hear it.
I've got one, and it's not a good story for everybody else. It's just a good story for me. But Sega was having issues trying to get from the 32X to the Saturn. This was back to Sega Genesis Nintendo days. Mm-hmm. And they decided, first time and only time it's ever happened in history, to release their console 6 months early. So we random on a Saturday went to EB Games, which I don't even know if they exist anymore. But we walk into EB Games, and a Sega Saturn was on the wall, and it said in stock. And I was like, that doesn't make any sense. That's 6 months ahead of time. And so I went and talked to the salesman, and I was like, is that actually here? And he said, yeah. So I spent the next, like, 4 hours calling friends on a payphone. This was before cell phones.
Oh, man.
And working financial deals out to borrow money, because I didn't have the money at the time. I just had, like, half of it. And borrowed the money to get that Sega Saturn. And
That's
going
awesome.
From a Saturday where we were maybe going to pick up a Genesis game to a Saturday where a whole new system that came with 3 games that were actually awesome, Daytona, Virtua Fighter, and to sit there and go home. And I remember with my friends just going like, that just happened. Because it's never happened. No console releases early. And there's a reason why. It fucking didn't work. And but
yeah.
it didn't. But it was so amazing to go, holy shit, we're playing like this new console 6 months early. And I remember with my friends just being like, that is fucking amazing. And the other one is Oxenfree. Oxenfree, if I could ignore a story, I would rather ignore Oxenfree's than Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic. If somebody said you could forget one to replay it. Dude, Oxenfree, I have no clue. I don't know why it resonated with me so much, but that just sitting down and being like, what the fuck? And then having friends play it with me and have everybody be like, that is good, was really unique at the time.
Yeah, it's funny because I can understand why. Like, KOTOR is an experience that I think I loved more and more as I kept replaying it.
Yeah.
I don't think it's like a first time erase my memory and re-experience it type game.
Right.
I think, like, when Fallout 3 first clicked for me, like, yeah, that would be one I'd love to erase and just re-experience like that, falling in love with the world, exploring every corner, doing all the quests, getting all the achievements. That's something that, I hold close to my heart. Jamie, I don't know if this is political. It's not. Don't worry. I read it necessarily. I know you stay away from all that, but what do you think of ESA and ESRB's response to the newest NBA title? It's mixed in with all this talk of government bodies stepping in to monitor and regulate loot boxes and predatory monetization. And in the event of that question is outside what you feel comfortable with discussing, what's it like having a community of friends like you do? For me, I think it'd be somewhat flattering, maybe. Like, we're all here for different reasons. Overall, I'd say we have a respect for you and appreciate what you guys do. At least that's me, anyway. You're both good guys, and I want to say thank you. Well, thank you. That's really nice.
Thank you, yeah.
Holy crap. Yeah. We can answer that first. I think it's incredible. I'll tell a quick story before we answer the ESA, ESRB thing. I remember when I was always asked when I was a kid what I wanted to be when I grew up. And I always said, because I debated well and I argued well for my age, mind you, my parents and my friends' parents would always say you should be a lawyer. So my answer would always be, I wish I could play games for a living, but I will be a lawyer. And so when I started making YouTube videos in 2008, 2007, I started making Call of Duty videos, and you start to see people like share that interest. This was before I made any money, by the way. I didn't start making any money whatsoever until technically I collected a check in, I think, 2008, but I never made money whatsoever outside of that till I think 2012. And it was not like money you could really live off of. I went up until 2015, I lived off about like $100 a month tops. Like not a lot at all. For someone who was, by the way, in college, like very little monthly. And so I remember when I first started having that growth and turning it into a job and seeing people like just joining up because we share interests and wanting to communicate in that way, and how easy it is. Because a lot of YouTubers, and mind you, I don't have like millions of subs, but I have a decent audience, and it's like how easy it is to go in the comments and talk to people and have exchanges with them and like come back later and continue that exchange, and to have the Patreon Discord and to have that, it is exactly as you say, it is very much flattering, like that people want to engage with you in that manner, that people give enough shits that they'll give Karak or I $3 a month, skip out on a cup of coffee for one day of that entire month and say like, hey, we want to be a part of you and what you're doing. Like that never goes unappreciated, or I'm not unaware of the sacrifice you guys make, even if it's just a couple of bucks for some people, to continue to help me continue doing what I'm doing. I know in a lot of ways my salary is my goodwill, right? Like, or your goodwill rather. We live off of your contributions mostly. That's our safety net. That's how I define my Patreon. I'm like, this is my safety net where I know I can lean on this if everything falls apart. And I know Karak with his demonetization, if he didn't have the Patreon,
I lean quite heavily on it.
Yeah, like where would our man be? So it is quite flattering. Sorry, Karak, I kind of rambled. If you have anything you'd like to add there.
No, I mean, the Discord, I have real friends in real life, and I certainly talk to people in the Discord more. And I've, like, shared and discussed stuff or, helped them out, and they've helped me out. And I think overall they're probably as close as, like, my close friends are, at least for some of them. Again, I don't know them, but that doesn't really change anything because, dude, I know some of my real friends who are less, what's the term, stable or less accessible than some of my online friends that are from YouTube. And so it is flattering, but I would also say for me it's just it's a sign of the times that shit changes, because I grew up in a time when, let's say, you didn't date online. It was considered horrible. It was like you were a loser. And now everybody I know, literally every single person I know, met somebody online. Yeah, dude. Insane. I mean, it's like every person I know who's married, they all met online. And the same thing happens with friends, and I have true friends from it. And then I would say for me also, it's the cool thing about those friends is like friends I never would have met in real life. Like when I got to meet TB, and talked to him and realized he was a complicated person, but I liked a lot of what he did, and I didn't think I was going to, or I didn't know how much I was going to. I'll just say it that way. And it was awesome. And that kind of stuff, I almost feel like we're, in a weird way, it's cooler now than physical friends, because physical friends, I've got a couple, but they're hard sometimes to get together, right? It's hard to get them over. You move, whatever. But with some of the online community I've grown, like I watch UFC with Kramer. I don't even know I don't even know his real name. I think it might be Daniel. I have no clue. We have literally spent every Saturday together for like 9 months. It's creepy. I mean, we should have an intervention. And to me, that's the awesome part of it is distance doesn't matter. I know people from Europe who I meet every Friday for the podcast, and I would have never, ever met them in real life. And that, it's not flattering. It's awe-inspiring. There's something amazing. Dude, I grew up in a time when you had to you would write a letter to a pen pal. A letter.
Yeah, I
by
had
hand.
a pen pal in first grade as well.
Right. And, you meet somebody in Malaysia named Ting, you talk 3 times, and then you lose fucking, contact. The people in my Discord I've held on. I just found out one of my friends I've known via the internet now for 12 years, which is just crazy to me.
Wow.
So it's amazing. I don't know, flattering's not the right term. I don't know what the right term would even be. Just
I think awe-inspiring.
Yeah,
I have communities of friends that I would never have if I didn't do what I did and didn't have the internet. For sure.
Yeah.
It has its negative parts, but I think it's easy to lose how many connections we form through it.
It has its negative parts, but you've probably got a friend or two, and I certainly do, that they're negative on their own. A group, maybe a friend in your group that you're like, I don't like this person as much as everybody else does. So.
Yeah. All right. How about the ESA and ESRB's response to the monetization in NBA? Personally,
What is that? Do you know? I don't know that. So, I don't know other than them just.
I know their responses were pretty bad in the terms of like they were endorsing that pretty much NBA should not have its rating changed, even though there is simulated gambling in there. There's been a big outcry because what happens is NBA 2K20, I think it is, has this literal gambling mechanic. It's actual. It's not a stretch of the words. Like everyone's coverage, believe it or not, has been spot on in what it is. It is very much a simulated gambling thing, like a slot machine. And there's actually a video of I don't know if it's real or not, but of kids reacting to the polls they're getting. And it's really disheartening because they're fucking ecstatic. And you can already see those signs oh no, they love the thrill. They feel the defeat when they don't get it and they keep going. I think it's how bad are your sales going to hurt if this game's rated T for teen? Because all that's going to happen, in my opinion, and I haven't given this a lot of thought, but this is just my raw take. All that's going to happen, you change it to T for teen, okay? You reprint the boxes.
From what? Can you tell me what from what? Okay, continue.
So, yeah, T would allow it to have the simulated gambling rating.
Right.
All that would happen is, just like these little kids would have to get the game now, mom and dad would come to the store and get them NBA. At that point, you are now legally abiding to what your own rules are in your rating system, and it's on the parents, like it should be, to decide if this product is okay or not for their youngling, and that they should protect their money. That is my take on it. Change the rating. It's not going to hurt anyone. 2K will just be fine. It'll sell a lot like usual, but the game will be acquired in the same means as if it was E. So I don't know what the fuck the fear is. I really don't. Obviously, they're not going to rip out the mechanic. There's too much money to be made. So that's why I'm just saying change the rating. I'm very shocked that they wouldn't abide by their very own rules they've created. And I think, like we've seen in the past, if it continues to get out of hand, the government will start to get involved. But the games industry does a very good job of keeping the government out whenever they need to the point where we saw Microsoft, Nintendo, and Sony get together to figure out something.
Yeah, I would agree with all that. I want the government to not come in. So I would rather have them switch everything and just do whatever. I don't really understand the T versus E. I'm sure there's some financial thing that they maybe where they can advertise.
Yeah.
You know, that I'm not understanding.
Maybe,
but
yeah, that's a good point.
Time to step up. Time to step up and just change it.
Yeah, because it.
Remember when Mortal Kombat 11? I know you really like it, and I like it somewhat, but had the slot machine inside of the crypt.
The crypts, yeah.
And they're like, we don't have loot boxes. And I'm like, yeah, bitch, because you got a slot machine. They're like, you don't need a loot box. Those guys, NBA and NFL are just openly brazen about it, and I don't think that it's a big price to pay for them if they want to be openly brazen to change it to T.
That's what I'm saying. If they're going to be open about it, they made a trailer. Like, they were... In a strange way, they were very direct about it. Like, hey,
they were balls out, bro.
Yeah, like, hey, there's going to be gambling in here, okay? Have fun. Yeah. And it's like, okay, just reflect that product properly with the rating. And then at that point, it's on the parents, and you guys aren't held accountable, and then there's no government intervention because that's when the uproar starts.
And it's on the parents anyway. Yeah. Because, dude, most kids under the T rating anyway aren't buying a $59.
Exactly. So, that's what I'm saying. It doesn't change your purchasing process. If it's M rated, completely different.
Right. Yeah, for
it's
sure.
Rated E. If you change it to T, that's still not so high. Most parents are going to go, oh, it's basketball. Fuck it. You know, they're probably not even going to notice the T there. And maybe that's their path of thought. But I think at that point you eliminate, if you're the ESRB, you eliminate that worry of, oh man, will the government come in? Right. So why not do it? Like you said,
self-regulation always has a tendency to be less overbearing if you do it versus an outside entity pretty much all the time. Like, you can clean your room very well, but not perfectly. Parent probably won't bitch. But if a parent comes in and is like, we're going to clean your room, you're like, this fucker's going to be spotless when we're done. Yeah. And that's not what you want. You don't want outside.
It's a really good point. Really good connection. All right. That's our last question, our last subject for episode 220 of the H.A.M Radio Podcast. Karak, as always, it was a pleasure. And I thought of a little hashtag.
Oh, shit. Here we go.
Kind of a theme of the episode. Set goals. I think hashtag set goals.
That's a good one.
So if you got this deep, you want to let us know, you can go ahead and tag us on Twitter. We've had the same person 2 weeks in a row tag us on Twitter. And just him. We want more than just one person, but we know we got a long show here. Most people don't listen. Like, once the topic wraps up, they just heard me say, oh, it's over. So they click off, they move on. But if you've listened this deep, take that extra moment. Send us a tweet. Let us know that you got this deep. We appreciate you deeply. And
yeah, for sure.
That will conclude this episode. Karak, any final thoughts?
No, other than while you and I were talking, unless I missed this, Matty, 42 minutes from who else? Game Informer of Outer Worlds.
Wow.
42 minutes. I'm just saying.
Wow.
I don't understand what's going on with Game Informer, but goddamn, they can pull hard. And they're pulling all the hotties. I have no clue what's going on. We've talked about this in the past. But if you guys are here, go check that out, because we haven't seen it. So if anybody asks why we don't talk about it, it's because we have not got to see it.
There you go. All right.
Are you going to, real quick before we end, are you going to watch it? Or is that too in-depth for you?
No, that's too much. That's
Me
too much.
Too. Okay.
I'm doing what I did with Borderlands. I'll cover any like little news blurbs for it, but for the most part, when it comes to actual gameplay and trailers,
that's almost an hour. That's a lot.
Yeah, I'm on blackout for it. That's what I did for Borderlands, and it made it a lot more enjoyable. So, in the Outer Worlds, I'm really looking forward to. Like, I'm saving my excitement and my coverage for when the game's here, or when I hopefully get it in my hands.
Same. So hashtag set goals.
Yes, indeed. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we look forward to hearing from you. We will see you guys next week on episode 221, and we'll chat soon. Peace out.
Peace out.